1, 2, 1, 2, 3, let's boogie.
Thanks for joining us on the Sam Jack podcast. If you're a new listener, thanks. Make sure to subscribe either to our YouTube channel or on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you podcast. But a little bit about the show. We are a show. I am Sam Jack. I have 15 years plus experience in the broadcast scene and production world, mainly in broadcasting mobile television, but audio production, music production. And I started this podcast to talk to other freelancers, those that don't work a 9 to 5, those that create their own hours and their own destiny in what they do. They have multiple clients, they work for a lot of people, they're an entrepreneur, they're starting their own business, they're making something creative, or they are part of a larger crew in a creative process using their skilled professions. And we have conversations with other people. This week we have DJ Platurn. He is a DJ producer. He's done multiple projects. He does live streams. He's very talented. He has got a lot of accolades under his belt, and we have a great conversation with him. So please join us on the Sam Jack podcast. And if you're a returning listener, we also want to thank you. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, Viral Media Network 415. Leave a comment below, tell us what you want to think, and check out our other videos on Viral Media Network. You can also follow us on Facebook, Viral Media Network, Instagram at viralmedia.network, Twitter, media_viral, and other places as well. But those are the main ones. We're also on Twitch, DJ Lumberjack. That's my personal account. Let's get on to the interview with DJ Platurn. Viral Media Network presents the Sam Jack podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. Today's guest, selector and producer, DJ Platurn. Welcome to the Sam Jack podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the Sam Jack podcast. I am your host, of course, Sam Jack. And today we have a very, very special guest, DJ Platurn. He's, of course, a DJ, but he's also a producer. He's doing many, many things. He has lots of accolades under his belt. Welcome, DJ Platurn. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on, bro. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, we'll get into a further discussion about all this, but during this whole pandemic, COVID-19, spike, reopening, non-opening, protests, I hope your family's doing safe. Being safe and everything's going well there, and you're being healthy and happy in your life.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, man. It's these are to coin an already watered down explanation of this situation that we're all in right now is that this is obviously unprecedented. There's a lot of aspects to our daily lives that are very unique and that we are having to adjust to for the first time. And it certainly makes for interesting times. It makes for interesting conversations. It makes for interesting art. But I can tell you right now that music, for me and for a lot of folks, man, most of the people that I talk to on a regular basis is what's getting a lot of us through. Good music and good food. That's and decent booze.
I love it. I mean, that's what it's all about. And speaking of which, I want to talk about a lot of your projects you've been doing, especially all the streaming you've been getting into. But namely your latest project, the Redman remix. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Redman, I should say. And what was that like coming together? And you actually worked with him, correct? Making this mix?
Well, I didn't work directly with Redman. So there's the actual story behind it is pretty interesting. Actually did an interview a few days ago where I explained it, and I kind of fumbled over my words a little bit because there's a lot of small little details that came together to actually make this thing happen. But in all actuality, it's actually pretty simple and straightforward. There was a guy this guy named DJ Trex, Trex, who he hit me up. He was somebody that I was connected to on Facebook, somebody that I've never actually met in my life. He hit me up and asked me to make him a mix in the same fashion that I've done my Tribe and Daylight mixes in the past. And anybody that's listening to those knows that, you know, the approach to that is very much kind of telling a story and you know, putting together kind of a theme that represents a certain, you know, particular sound for that artist, era for that artist and whatnot. And he wanted me to do the same thing for Redman, which is his favorite MC. So he's a cat that is from Jersey originally. He lives out here in California, but he's a nurse that's working on the front lines of the COVID pandemic. And so he asked me to put this together for, you know, in so many words, essentially not knowing what, you know, the future was going to look like. And he always wanted to have something like that in his possession. And so he asked me to put this thing together specifically for him. And so we worked together to make it happen. You know, he had some things that were, you know, essential that he wanted to hear on the mix, songs and a couple of skits and whatnot, you know, and I made sure that I fit all of that into it. And then I did my thing with the rest of it. I'm also a huge Redman fan, so it was kind of a no-brainer, but that's essentially how that mix came to be, because there's a lot of artists, you know, that I revere and have a ton of respect for. I probably wouldn't have necessarily put Redman on like the immediate list of artists that I wanted to piece together, you know, the kind of homage mixes that I do.
Yeah, the list is long, right? I mean, it's like so many in so little time, right?
Yeah, the list is pretty fucking long. But man, you know, when he came to me and told me, he's like, dude, I'm dealing with COVID daily, you know, and now with the spike back up and everything, he's back in the mix and everything is pretty rugged, man. And you know, he's just plain and simple was like, hey, listen, I don't know what's going to happen to me, you know, and I would love to have something like this in my possession, you know, before anything becomes concrete in terms of our future and whatnot. And it's pretty fucking hard to say no to that. So, so we worked together and made it happen, man. So the backstory is great. The reception has been fucking amazing. It did not make its way back to Redman. I mean, I'm not that far removed from the guy. I do have some connections to him, but we weren't like, hey, Redman, get down with us. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it wasn't like a straightforward thing where we wanted him to be involved by any means. It was more just like, hey, let's put something together in respect to the guy. You know, he's an amazing figure. On top of being super talented, he's a pretty amazing figure, man. There's not too many dudes from that era of hip hop that are still around and just doing cool, relevant, you know, interesting, funny shit, you know, that people care about. So
yeah,
especially
not as determined. You know, he's one of those artists that's not as, he can kind of just do whatever he's want. He doesn't care what the industry trends are or what's hot now. He's still going to be Redman. He might update a little bit to the times, but he's not going to be like, well, this is the latest thing, I got to get with this artist to do it. He's like, I'm going to do what I do, right?
Exactly. You nailed it.
That's rare these days, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. No, you nailed it, man. That's the thing about him as a personality is, like, he's one of those dudes that has genuine fans. You know what I'm saying? Like, real, like, he's got fandom, like actual concrete fandom where people, they ride with him and everything that he does because they're just dedicated to him and his personality and what he conveys, you know, both as an MC but also as a personality, man. So, you know, I mean, I put a couple of his newer joints on the mix because that had to happen because he still makes dope shit, dude. Like,
yeah. Well, that's part of the dope tape, right? Part of the mixtape process is like you mix in stuff that, especially if it's about a certain artist, right? You want to put in their new stuff because, I mean,
absolutely, for sure. I mean, I concentrated because we both come from that era. Like this guy Trex and we're the same age, but we, you know, I concentrated on the first 3 albums more than anything. But then, you know, all kinds of sprinkle shit on top of that. So yeah, so it's good, man. People really liked it, and the reception's been fantastic, man. I love it. So
That's great. Well, I was going to ask you kind of go in the direction of, like as I asked a lot of artists on this show, is about COVID-19 and how the new streaming thing, but you alluded to first, and I want to kind of steer it in that direction, and we'll get back to it because it's an obvious question. We'll obviously talk about it, but you talked about your mixtapes. This is a question I had later, but since you brought it up, you do, you are a DJ, but I think more than anything, you are a curator above all. And I know there are other DJs like that, but to me, you really shine out as like, no, I'm going to curate albums and artists. And like, when you create, like you said, the De La Soul or the Tribe mixtape or the Native Tongues in, as a larger group, kind of stuff. Yeah. It is that kind of curated. It's not just, hey, I'm going to put together the top 5 or the most popular. It's like, no, it's going to flow. I'm going to compose the mix, right? So talk a little bit about that process and how that just kind of reflects your style.
To be honest, man, I think I'm actually more of a selector than I am as a DJ. Like, I'm not going to lie. If I really had to kind of break it down percentage-wise, I think what it is that I choose to play, both as a DJ, in a live setting, but also what I choose to use for the things that I produce, the things that I make edits and remixes of, and certainly the things that I choose to make the focus of an actual DJ mix, like a themed DJ mix. I think I'm way more adept at actually putting the particular music together versus the actual DJ side of things, and not to negate or ignore that aspect, because whatever, man. I mean, I know I'm pretty decent, but I know that there's fucking thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, motherfuckers out there that are way more adept at the technical aspect of it all. But really, man, at the end of the day, it really comes down to putting together what is kind of just a story, man. There's a lot of ways to word that, but ultimately, I think it really just kind of comes down to how you can kind of, I guess in so many words, the best way that I would describe my approach when I'm putting together something like a mix, like we're talking about, is try to get people really involved in the storytelling side of it all. And that, of course, is going to mean something entirely different to each individual listener. But for me and the approach that I take and what it is that I'm trying to convey as somebody that's trying to be creative as a DJ, is I just want to tell a story, man. And stories, good books, good movies, good scripts or whatever, all of that kind of shit. It's got peaks, it's got valleys, it's got certain things that tug on you emotionally. It's got, downtime. It's got frantic parts. It's got weird shit, and it's got messaging and the whole nine. Like it runs the whole gamut. But the name of the game is to tell the best story that you can, or write the best script that you can. And that's always kind of been my approach as far as making mixtapes, at least, is to just, like I said, man, just tell a good story with your shit, dude. That's what's most fun. Take them on a trip, dude. Give them a good book to listen to, or a good book to read, or a good movie to watch, and do it just sonically. And that's the move. So.
No, absolutely. And speaking of which, I wanted to mention, now we can segue back into like how you've shifted, obviously, live performances, whether it be a band or a DJ, whatever, have kind of ceased and existed, and you were all over the place. So, you're now doing like 3 live shows. I know you're not doing Who Sampled as much, but you got Who Sampled, the 45 session, the Rings of Platurn, and then you're on other live streaming stuff. You're asked to be guests on other, promoter sites and live concert streaming sites, that kind of thing. And then you also started your episodic series about, speaking of which, being a curator. That show is all about being a curator and really delving into like, hey, these are songs that are either like from a very unique song, or like, everyone sampled this, or like you're gonna know this break beat because it's used like 9 times out of 10 by all producers.
Right.
So,
Right.
Talk about what it's like developing that and how that all came about in this time of the pandemic and COVID-19.
Well, I mean, there's no denying the fact that that there's a huge demand for content right now, right? And so for somebody like me who's been doing this for as long as I have, personally, I kind of stopped DJing out in public a whole lot. Maybe like 2 years ago, I started getting much more picky about the gigs that I would take, about the shows that I would promote, the whole nine. Yeah. So, to be perfectly frank, what's going on with this whole live streaming thing is it's not that far out of my comfort field.
Yeah.
Like I kind of enjoy the fact that's what you can do with what's going on and as far as your live streams go, have equally as much, if not more so, to do with what it is that you feel like fucking doing, versus adhering to like a dance floor full of people that you want to make sure that are getting their boogie on or whatever. Like I can do whatever the hell that I want to do, man. And I love that aspect. That's always been my MO as a DJ, regardless. So much of what it is that I choose to do as a DJ, with the things that I release, but also what I've just kind of put on my shoulders as a personality in the DJ and record and hip hop and funk game and everything has been to like we talked about, man, is to put together these shows that tell stories and whatnot. And so it very much matches exactly what all of the things that I'm doing, man. The whole Who sample thing, the Rings of Platurn thing that I've been doing with Vinrock, and that reminds me, actually, I have to shoot the next show next week. It's all thematic. There's concepts and there's themes and the whole nine. But to answer your question in so many words, really what it comes down to at the end of the day is the mantra that I've subscribed to for probably most of my DJ career. I've been doing this for 25, 26 years at this stage, and I think it's probably safe to say that for a good 20 of those years, after I had kind of cut my teeth with a handful of things back in the 90s, my MO has always been to educate as well as entertain. And that's always been, the whole fucking like edutainment, the BDP concept and whatnot, the KRS coined and whatnot, the idea that you can educate and entertain at the same time is a very real thing for me. And that's always been a big part of what it is that I try to do as a DJ and as a producer, and just as somebody, that might be regarded as a personality, or at least somebody that has something minimal to say, but it really just comes down to educating and entertaining at the same time. And for COVID and what's happening right now, I think that's even more accentuated and even more important. And there's a lot of people, man, that are listening to what it is that I have to say, whether it be bullshit or not, that appreciate that. They appreciate the fact that it's not just straight up escapism all the time. There's a good level of actually learning that's happening congruently. So that's kind of it, man. That's been my stance for a long time, and that really hasn't changed much. So
thank you so much for listening. This is Sam Jack, your host. Make sure to subscribe to us. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcast. Just search the Sam Jack Podcast. Thank you so much. You can find us on YouTube. Our channel is Viral Media Network 415. The playlist is the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. Check out all the other great playlists on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the interview. Yeah, no, I feel you. I mean, it's, by the way, cheers. We got on this call and I wasn't sure. We definitely, when we do these night interviews, we definitely, how do you say it in Icelandic?
Scowl, S-K-A-L. It's like scowl, like when you make like a mean face. It's S-K-A-L. That's how you say cheers in Icelandic.
Scowl.
Scowl.
It's sort of like the what's the Viking one, like skull or
Yeah,
Cole,
yeah, it's Scowl. That's how you actually pronounce it. It's just ironically enough, it's the same. When you say it phonetically in English, dude, it means to fucking make a mean face, dude. So
that's funny.
yeah, it's pretty funny.
I think I got a little bit of Viking in there. I'm not sure. Between the Scottish and the German and the Russian, there's probably something there.
Do you know how far back? Like, what are the earliest roots of your family lineage?
All I know is most of my family on either side, whether it be Scottish or Russian or German, came over kind of like 20s or 30s, like kind of late relatively. I mean, obviously there's still families coming in and immigrating, but like, as far as the European migration, I think it was like between World War I and World War II. I think there's a couple families that are a little older, maybe from like, the early 1900s. I don't know, because you are Icelandic, and that's actually an area of conversation I want to get into as far as how that intersects with your music. You obviously did the project, the mixtape, where you sourced all the Icelandic funk records. Was it is that what it was about? Am I totally missing that, or?
No, you're not missing it at all.
I forget the name of it. Excuse me. I feel so bad because I did all this research, and that's the one thing I forgot to write down as far as the name.
Yeah, no worries, man. It's pretty straightforward. Breaking the Ice was the name of the project.
Breaking the Ice. Thank you. And we're gonna take that over again. Okay, you did a mixtape called Breaking the Ice, but this is a podcast. Okay, no cuts.
Yeah, no worries. We can start that over if you want.
I just feel bad. I as far as makes me look bad, so I do apologize. But
dude, please don't apologize. The things that I forget are always the obvious ones. That's right. What's so funny about when you're talking about shit, dude, is it's always like the fucking Breaking the Ice is probably the most simple and generic name for the project that we could have picked, honestly, for what it was that we did.
Right.
And so anyway, whatever, man, I'm the same way, dude. I always forget the basic shit. So
so you did a mixtape called Breaking the Ice, and that intersects your background of being Icelandic and your love of music. And for a lot of people would not think that there was a huge funk scene in Iceland, but as we all know, funk is a very contagious disease.
Absolutely.
And, it can go all over the world, and it makes it to that frigid island that they call Iceland. So talk about that research, and you have family still back in Iceland, correct?
Yeah. Well, my whole extended family is all back home. Actually, at this stage, man, in terms of what's been going on with COVID, and my dad actually passed away a little while back, and so my mom moved back to Iceland after that all happened. But my mom and my brother are both living back in Iceland, and my whole extended family is all living back there too. So it's just me and my sister that are left, and the rest of our family is all back home. And we have a huge fucking family, man. There's two things that Icelanders are really, really good at doing, and that's making babies and drinking. So they have that aspect covered of their culture, and my family is no exception. So every time I go back home, there's at least 2 new little nephews or nieces that are running around. But yeah, well, I mean, the thing with Breaking the Ice, the way that it came to be was my history with Icelandic music has everything to do with my dad. My dad was a DJ in Iceland back in the day, and so I grew up around a lot of the records that he had in his collection, a collection that he actually brought with him back from Iceland when we moved here to Cali. And so they've just been around me ever since I was a kid. And then I just started getting more and more into the kind of deeper, obscure side of things with actual history, and how, just how artists are connected, how bands are connected, what they were influenced by, the whole nine. There was definitely a lot of... There was a lot of improvisation going on. There was definitely a good amount of experimentation as far as, hey, I'm trying to come up with my own thing, my own unique angle to my music. But there was also a lot of stuff happening that was directly related to the music that they were hearing on the airwaves which is what my dad was doing at the time, which was playing that music. So he would play Curtis Mayfield and Otis Redding and Stevie Wonder. He would play reggae music, the whole nine. And so, you know, there were artists that were doing covers of Stevie and covers of Otis Redding and all of this kind of shit. And whether or not, you know, they started doing that because of the music Pops was playing, that's, you know, debatable and whatnot. But you know, at that time, Black American music was a pretty foreign concept. And he was one of the first guys that actually was playing that on the radio. And so putting the project together was very much a homage to him and the influence that he had on a certain, you know, angle of the kind of music that was coming out of Iceland at the time. But to be clear, I think it's really important to understand that there was nobody in Iceland that was straight up making funk music. The whole premise of that project and the kind of music that I was concentrating on, and still to this day, like I'm still unearthing some things here and there, is that it was just groove, just straight up groove, like groovy shit, you know what I mean? And groovy can cross a lot of different spectrums, you know, everything from you know, just to whatever, man, jazz and you know, some aspects of pop and like weird synth stuff. And there's even like a couple of hip hop tracks or tracks that kind of sound like there's a joint that I put on the mix that straight up sounds like an early rap record, like a disco backing track. And the dude is, you know, just speaking in Icelandic, but he's kind of like, he's supposed to be singing, but he's pretty much speaking in Icelandic, and it kind of sounds like he's rapping. And then there's another joint on there that sounds like an early kind of like Herbie Hancock thing when they're punching in like scratch sounds off of a keyboard, and that shit is from like 82, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's really what it does. It just comes down to groove, you know what I mean? Like there were no legitimate actual funk bands. It was basically mostly rock bands that were experimenting with jazz, soul, and groove-based music.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, that's how that whole thing came to be. And me just being the kind of dude that I am, a hip hop head and whatnot, it's pretty natural to be attracted to that, especially because it's music coming from my home country, from a place that you'd never, ever would expect that kind of sound to come from, you know? Real talk, dude. Like, you don't have to go to Iceland to be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't necessarily expect funk music to come from there. Like there's dudes, man, that are in the scene. I got good homies, man, that are back home that are like real virtuosos, man, when it comes to Afrobeat and straight up fucking James Brown funk and the whole nine. Badass drummers, badass bass players, dude. Like, you know, horn cats and whatnot. Vocals is a completely different conversation.
Right. Well, what would you say about, you know, because, you know, cultural appropriation is a huge thing these days. So I know you've earned a lot of respect just by being true to the music and being around the game for 25 years. But like, what would you say for people that are like, oh no, they're culturally appropriating, like, you know, funk, black African music or whatnot, or like, you know, they should be, you know, listening to Fela instead or whatever, you know? I mean, how would you respond to that?
Well, I mean, it's an undeniable part of the conversation, bro. Like, listen, you and me we're both white dudes, you know, sitting here, you know, in
we have no authority really on the subject.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, dude, we're both sitting here in very comfortable positions with all kinds of technology at our fingertips, talking about music that ultimately is black influenced, you know. Everything from hip hop to funk music, and even fucking, you know, groove based music from Iceland, you know, none of this
rock and roll.
Yeah, of course. I mean, literally everything. Any aspect of modern American music, man, can be attributed to black culture. So, so you know, as far as the appropriation aspect of it, it's a very, very real thing for somebody like me, and what it is that I've done over the years. I'm very sensitive to the fact when somebody is approaching, utilizing certain aspects of culture and music for their own personal gain with ill intent. And I think for anybody that has an ounce of awareness, it becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly that if your intentions are bullshit and they are just opportunistic, it tends to shine pretty quickly. I think around here in Northern California, we really just don't play that shit too much, man. You know, there's a lot of infiltrators and a lot of just kind of gross personalities, man, that you know, step into the situation and just try to capitalize off of it in one way or another. But I think you have genuine intent and actually pay the amount and the right kind of respect that you need to, both you know, recognition wise, both like, you know, spreading the love in terms of information and connectivity and all of that, but also a big part of it is like, what kind of role do you play? You know, we live in a capitalistic society, man. What kind of role do you play if you're a white person that takes part in Black culture? What kind of part do you actually play in making sure that gets you know, the love gets spread forward? Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you contribute to what it is that you say that you love, that you claim that you love? Like, what role are you playing? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you fucking put like, ultimately at the end of the day, bro, it's put your money where your mouth is, dude. Like, if you're gonna talk that talk, fucking support, man. Do the damn thing, you know? Like support causes. You know, if you're not gonna be out there in the fucking streets with your fist up and putting your body in harm's way with these fucking pigs that are all, you know, I don't want to go too far down that road because that's another 10-minute conversation. But regardless, you know, if you're gonna be an ally, if you're gonna fuck with the cause, then your heart needs to be in the right place. So as far as you know, as far as actually being a part of this whole thing, if you're gonna take not ownership, but if you're gonna take any sort of participation points in any of it, then your you know, your intent needs to be genuine, and it needs to lie with the benefit of the people that you are actually, you know, claiming that you respect and love and enjoy their art at the same time. So
no, absolutely. And I was going to say to that, I mean, that goes to the point of, like, we hear a lot these days where, you know, Black folks are tired of explaining to all of their white, because they're usually the one Black friend for a lot of white people, explaining, you know, I'm tired of explaining to white people how to deal with it. And it's like, for someone like you that's exposed to a lot more than other people that aren't comfortable with the situation, that's good advice as far as, like, well, get involved and, like, actually be a part of it rather than just be on the peripheral and be like, well, I have that one Black friend. It's like, get involved, have those uncomfortable conversations, or be in a situation where you might be the minority. Go to a situation where you're not, you know, it's not a bunch of white people and one Black person. Maybe, like, you're the one Black person and a bunch of minorities, or, you know, or whatever the case be. But, like, it's a situation where, yeah, you have to, like you said, you have to own it, and you have to be about it. You can't just enjoy something and then not be connected to it by any means. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna choose to play any sort of role, both as somebody that, you know, is a bystander or as a person who is actually taking part, dude, look, man, it's like I said, man, you don't belong in this situation unless your intentions are genuine. And if your intentions are to utilize and capitalize, you're going to get found out quick, and you're going to get called out, and you're going to get embarrassed and possibly beat the fuck down if it's some real fucked up shit. If you're like an infiltrator that's fucking spreading information, you know, to sources that don't deserve to hear it kind of shit, you know, there's plenty of that going on right now. There's all kinds of two-faced, double-cross motherfuckers, man, that are part of you know, culture and music and revolution and everything that's going on these days. But at the end of the day, if you decide that you, as a white boy, as a white girl, as a non-person of color, deciding to take part in any of this that can clearly and very straightforward be attributed to Black and brown folks in this country, then your heart needs to be in the fucking right place. At the end of the day, pure and simple, and do it for the right fucking reasons, and not because Black Lives Matter is a hashtag right now or whatever the fuck the case may be. You know what I mean? Yeah. Put your heart into that shit, man, for the right goddamn reasons, dude. So Sorry, man. Like I'm like,
No, please. It's all good. That's what the podcast is about. Is about just
dude. Like I'll speak on it, dude, because at the end of the day, man, like I've been part of this culture for a very fucking long time, man. I've been listening to rap music, dude, since fucking I was 7 years old. I've been a Bay Area kid ever since I moved here when I was very, very young. There are things that I'm really, really like viciously adamant about, and one of them is making sure that people just get what it is that they deserve, man. And you know, and America, for the modern version of American society for the last fucking 500 years has been all about taking. And at this stage, if any of this means anything going forward, then, you know, at this stage, you know, we need to flip the fucking script straight up and down and turn it into way more of a balanced and giving situation. That's it, you know. That's my 2 cents on it, man. I could sit here and talk for fucking hours, dude.
Yeah, no worries. Well, let's get back to the music and about more of your projects, because what I wanted to ask you is, like, speaking of all these video projects going on, all your streaming stuff, and not only do you put out mixes, you know, you have Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, excuse me. But then you also produce your own music. You know, talk about those projects. And I know you worked with a recent artist out of LA. Talk about that and just like, how do you balance, like you said, doing the more curating, coming up with mixtapes of, like, you know, songs that you want to produce versus, or mixes you want to produce versus like tracks that you're actually producing, and how that works.
Right. You know, ultimately, man, my approach for the longest time is really just to essentially just do kind of what is inspiring me at the moment. I'm constantly looking for records. I'm constantly digging. That's never stopped ever since I became, you know, a DJ of any sort of like veritable caliber. My whole shit has been on a regular basis every single week. Like I have legitimate withdrawals if I don't go record digging. Like where I live in the Bay Area, most of what I have access to as far as digging for records are just Goodwills.
Yeah.
In the first 3 months of lockdown, all the Goodwills were closed.
Yeah.
All record stores were closed too, and I would shit you not, dude. I was having, because I'm not much of an online digger. I do that a little bit. It's pretty minimal. You know, 90% of my collection is stuff that I found in the field and found for cheap.
Well, it's more rewarding that way. I'm actually want to, you know, after you, like, it's so funny these days. It's like the cheap bin is like a $5 bin, where it's like, nah, dude, like it's $1 bin. You know what I mean? Like, there's something really satisfying about spending the time digging through, finding the gems, or even picking up something that you're like, I don't know what this is, and then bringing it home and it's like total fire, right? Like,
yeah.
So, you know, I actually wanted to start a series, and, like, you know, if you beat me to it, it's okay, because it'll go to a good guy. But like, basically thrift store finds. I mean, there's already like this this whole genre of YouTube videos called like a haul.
Right.
Someone goes on a shopping spree. So I was like, okay, thrift store find, like vinyl haul. Like what would happen when you come home, and even records you might be like, hey, I just found this for cheap at Goodwill or whatever, or I have no idea what this is. I'm going to hear it for the first time. You know what I mean? Like I bought one the other day that was like I thought it was a Sesame Street record. Well, it turns out it was like a whole production of a cover of Sesame Street songs. Like,
oh, that's dope.
Some like kids disco band made, like it was adults, but it was like, you know, kind of in the 70s. So it was like the disco sound, but it was like, wait, this isn't the original track, but it's like kind of like funkified. It's got the like disco beat, you know, like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm totally that way. And I ran into someone one time when we were talking about, like, I just heard them talking about like sampling something, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a website you can go to and just like enter in the song, and it'll tell you how that was sampled, you know. And it's like, I'm like, burn that website. Like, there's like, shouldn't be, you know. It's like people should be able to find, you know, it's like a quest, right? Like you like follow your ear, like sort of like Toucan the Sam, like Toucan Sam with the nose. Like, Follow your ears, you know, like, I don't know, like, it's just my thought, but,
Yeah, no, there's a lot to be said for the snitching aspect of the digging game and whatnot. Who's Sampled, which is the main website that exists now, it plays an interesting role, and there's a lot of people that utilize it and dig it, but there's a good handful of folks that just don't really enjoy the fact that so much of that information has been put out there. But man, I mean, at this stage, dude, like, there's hardly anything that you can do. So much of that information is already out there. But
I know the cat's out of the bag, right?
It is in a lot of ways, man. I think the name of the game now is ultimately like, what can you unearth at this point? What can you unearth that's never been fucked with before?
Yeah.
And what can you do with it? And to go back to what you were asking me about, my production stuff and what it is that I've been kind of concentrating on as of late, in terms of the music that I'm adamant about exposing and bringing to light and whatnot. Like that EP that I sent you, the Edgewise joints.
Yeah.
Edgewise. So he's originally a San Jose dude. He lives in Oakland now. Super talented cat. We made an EP, so it's 5 tracks, couple of interludes. But most of the sample sources actually come from where I live in the Bay Area, which is kind of closer to North Bay, like wine country. I live up in Vallejo. And a lot of the digging that I do up here, man, like you come across a lot of interesting, way more obscure shit, like than just kind of straight ahead loops and just basic shit and whatnot. And so I think still to this day, it's really important to it's just important, man, to just keep digging, dude. Keep digging. There's just endless amounts of shit to be found, dude. Like, I've been fortunate enough to travel the world quite a bit, and every time I travel I dig, and there's so much more fucking music out there that is just fascinating, and it expands your universe, and it just makes things so much more interesting, and there's just sample fodder for fucking days. Like, there's just like, as much as Impeach the President and Funky Drummers still to this day are going to be undeniable and the shit, and we're always going to love it, and we're always going to utilize it to some extent or another, there's just fucking endless amounts of music out there, man. There's so much fucking good music out there, just interesting shit, dude. So
For sure.
Yeah, and that EP, man, the sample sources that I use for that EP is like mostly Latin records that I found up here in the North Bay, or North Bay area.
Right.
I shouldn't. North Bay is like Santa Rosa, homies, dude. I'm not downplaying it. I'm more.
No,
I guess
I don't consider that Bay Area, dude. I'm a Bay snob, man. Like, if it's like past, like, even Novato to me is like kind of pushing it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, Petaluma, come on, bro. Like,
I should say top of the Bay.
Yeah, Vallejo is definitely Bay, because I mean, you got E40 and McDre, and it's still part of the water system that is the Bay. Yeah. Like, even like for me, like Walnut Creek doesn't touch the Bay. It's not Bay. Like, like San Ramon, Pleasanton, Livermore, that shit ain't Bay, bro. Right. It's like Greater Bay. I don't know. Like, doesn't touch the Bay. It's dry. It's like Diablo Valley. We're talking the Tri Valley. What are we talking? You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't call Santa Cruz Bay Area. Some people do. Or like Half Moon Bay, Pacifica. They're technically part of the Bay Area, but that's coastal, right? Like, you're talking Bay. I don't know. We can go off that tangent, and then you get like Bay prejudice. But
exactly, I've heard plenty of people use the extended Bay Area terminology, which is kind of bullshit at the end of the day.
Thank you so much for listening. This is Sam Jack, your host. Make sure to subscribe to us. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcast. Just search the Sam Jack Podcast. Thank you so much. You can find us on YouTube. Our channel is Viral Media Network 415. The playlist is the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. Check out all the other great playlists on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the interview. Yeah, so picking back up on the point about being able to follow your interest with what you do with your projects, I'm sure that didn't happen overnight. And you mentioned traveling. I know sometimes you're obviously traveling on vacation for pleasure, but you've been able to travel and have gigs internationally. Not only I'm sure in Iceland, but like I know you've had gigs in Japan and things like that. So talk about for those out there, this is a podcast for other DJs, other creative freelancers building up to that point. It doesn't happen overnight to necessarily, not that you're choosy, but be able to follow your interest and your heart and your ear with where your projects go. So what's it like to build up to that point, since it didn't happen overnight? And for instance, like taking the gigs you had to take when you're just starting out, obviously, 25 years, you get a lot of experience under your belt, but what's that process like, and any advice for those that are looking to get to that point where you can do projects like that?
Yeah, no, I'm hearing you. The fact of the matter is that if you actually want to make this your life, you're gonna have to be viciously fucking patient. So much of this experience, in terms of making art your lifestyle, has everything to do with not getting too antsy about jumping the gun on one thing or another. Like take time with your art. Take time with the opportunities that are presented to you. Know when to say yes, when to say no. Know your place. Be aware and kind of vigilant about your capabilities as an artist. Like don't front, don't fucking fake the funk, don't pretend like you're capable of handling a certain gig or a certain, artistic piece or whatever if you really can't do it justice, kind of thing. And so, with all that being said, time, training, being dedicated to what it is that you're signing yourself up for is a huge part of this whole experience as far as making DJing your life, or art your life, or music your life in any sort of way. And for me, I've just been doing this for fucking hella long, dude. Like I've been doing this for 20. Like I started DJing legitimately, where I actually started playing out, had my own equipment, had enough records, and started doing gigs in '94, and it's 2020 now. So 26 years under the belt. I've been
incredible, man. That's really really incredible.
It's and I mean I haven't been DJing for 26 years straight. Obviously I've had gigs and went to school and did all kinds of shit in between, and I've done all kinds of multitude of different things within the industry, from throwing shows to managing clubs and producing music and blah 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 blah. It's all over the fucking spectrum, man. But at the end of the day, the best advice that I could ever give to anyone that actually feels like they really want to make this their life, and this is like, we're talking about this in COVID times where none of this shit even exists, but there are certainly outlets and opportunities for artists to have, and DJs and music makers to have now, because a lot of people want that content. They're jonesing for quality content these days. But man, all I can say, I don't know, man. I keep reverting back to this, dude. I think this is like the third time that we've been talking about this in the interview, is that just make sure that like your intentions are genuine, like if you actually really are about, like if you want to make this your fucking life, then just give a fuck. Give a shit about the music and the art that you are choosing to sign up and align yourself with. Like, be real about it, Do the research, educate yourself, know where it comes from, understand what it took to make it, and you know, understand the background and the and everything from the artist and the producers and the outlets and everything that it came from, you know, all of that kind of shit. Like really be about it, you know, be smart about what it is that you're embracing and choosing to promote and taking part in, you know. It's just like your artistic experience and you as a person being involved in this sect of art is only going to enrich your experience that much more. Yeah. Like if you're just doing it kind of blindly and just because it's a fucking, again, like a hashtag or the trendy thing of the moment, dude, you are not you're not living that life, you know, you're not living that genuine part of the experience that means fucking anything, you know? It doesn't mean shit, dude. Yeah. So just, you know, be, you know, put your heart in the right place. I apologize if I'm repeating myself, man, because
no, it's all good.
This is,
I'm not asking the same question, am I?
No, you're not. But you know, ultimately for me, you know, where I come from with all of this shit is you know, just be real, dude.
No, for real. And I think it's one of those things that it's a really important aspect of it. And so it rings true, and it really, people try to overcomplicate things, especially now when, oh, you got to have your social media thread, you got to have a live stream, you got to have this, you got to have that. When it's like, when you just literally do you and not worry about, obviously, like you said, you want to do your research and know the format of the music that you're working with, but like not be encumbered by too many outside voices telling you what to do, and just being yourself while at the same time being true to the music.
Yeah.
I think the combination of those two things is a powerful thing, and that will allow you, and then also like you said, success, patience, you know, commitment to the craft, and not being a flash in the pan, and really being true about it, knowing things don't happen every night. I think it's Malcolm Gladwell that said, to be an expert in anything, you got to spend 10,000 hours at something. Right. And that goes for any art, right? And so I think that's kind of what you're getting at. And then, you know, my wife always tells me, because I'm the king of just having way too many interests and having too much on the plate, and then, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. It's ironic that my last name is Jack, but you know, she's constantly telling me, focus on one thing, do one thing very well, build on that, and once you build on that, you build the foundation for other things to come. And I think, again, that's what you're getting at. And it comes down to that core foundation. I always say, you know, you got to have a solid foundation when you buy a house, right? You always, especially here in California with the earthquakes, right? Like, you want to be able to have that solid, you know, a good house wasn't, you know, for those religious people, you shall not build your house on sand. I think that's a quote from the Bible, but I learned that one from The Simpsons. I didn't learn that from the Bible, but
I think honestly, man, I think look, if you're gonna sign yourself up and again align yourself with a certain aspect of art or community or social issue and whatnot, follow through on it, finish it, okay? And not to say that, you know, fucking societal ills or everything that we deal with in terms of economic disparity and racism, it's never a fucking finished situation here. But look, if there's an objective and what it is that you're trying to accomplish, then stick to it until it feels like you are, you know, either it's a lifelong thing, or you find your place where you're really, you know, about that shit, dude. Just don't fucking front. Don't fake that shit, dude. And if you're gonna do that with music, I don't know, man. There's plenty of us that are out here, dude, that'll call you on your bullshit, dude. I'm not the only one. No. There's this website called Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, even if I'm not on it, dude, where people call you out on your bullshit constantly, dude. Just like, don't front, dude. Just don't fucking front. Like, be genuine about your intentions with everything that you do in life, and especially with art, man. Because art is the truest expression that we have, man. It's the truest fucking expression that we have as sentient beings. It's like the main fucking thing, dude, that if there's anything that we do, we've destroyed this planet, we've destroyed this world, the one thing that we really have at our fucking fingertips is art. Like, I think social justice is an art, you know, at the end of the day, man, like, you know, being fucking anti-racist and all that shit, it's like damn near on the fucking level of art at this stage, dude, because everything else is just fucking not. I don't know, man. I'm going off on a tangent here, but you know, this is just
there are no tangents on a podcast. Podcasts are free formed and, you know, based on the conversation.
true.
And, you know, so talking about, you know, you mentioned that you started promoting and booking venues and, you know, doing that sort of realm. But also, I know you've done a lot of partnerships with, you know, places like, you know, Bandcamp is now located in Oakland, and Mixcloud and Serato, and talk about building those kind of brand identity partnerships, and, you know, what's that like, you know, from a revenue aspect or just from a business aspect of, like, you're curating the music, you're obviously about the music, but also you got to pay the bills. And, you know, again, living in the Bay Area, you know, we got to keep it real. Building those partnerships where you're ensuring that, you know, you have a say in all the good music that's being curated with not institutions, but organizations or tech companies like that. Like, talk about building those partnerships.
Well, it's inevitable that if you're going to play any sort of role that's going to, you know, help you pay your bills here in the Bay Area, that at some point or another, or more than likely on multiple occasions, you're actually going to end up in some sort of, you know, maybe not allegiance, but, you know, cahoots or whatever it is with, you know, some level of tech and some level of corporate blah blah blah. If you live in a metropolitan area, period, more than likely you're just going to end up in that kind of situation. For me, I mean, dude, there's brands that I've been involved with over the years. Some have come and gone. Some are still here that I still work with and still feel comfortable working with, even though they are on a hyper corporate level. That I don't mind working with them as long as the intent is not compromised. Like, for me, I've been working with Red Bull, for instance. Red Bull is definitely one of them. So I've been working with Red Bull for shit, man, it's going on almost 14 years now.
Oh, wow.
I think the first time I worked with Red Bull was back in 2006. And I've done a lot of things with Red Bull over the years, and there's a lot of people that just don't, you know, they don't fuck with corporate, period. But, you know, there's definitely been some examples of Red Bull over the years, and I'm not afraid to say it, you know, like there's some, you know, all you got to do is look it up, man. I don't need to tell motherfuckers anything. I don't need to drop a link or whatnot, but all you got to do is Google just Red Bull and controversy or Red Bull and blah, blah, blah. You know, there's some aspects, and they've definitely been called culture vultures in a lot of ways over the years. They're a fucking energy drink from Germany, you know, like it's not that far-fetched of a thing to be like, oh, you guys are literally, you know, all about fucking exposing like deep underground black and brown culture, from b-boy to music and the whole nine, dude. Like, and that's your shit. Like, that's your thing now. But I have seen a lot of people benefit. And it's because the people that were in charge of those beneficial aspects actually maintained a certain level of control.
Yeah, and that's important, right? So you're able to navigate through that.
Absolutely. And with Three Style, for instance, like the guys that are involved with Three Style and that are, you know, the main dudes who pull the strings in the background of freestyle, of Three Style, they have full-fledged pure intentions about spreading the love and affording opportunities to the people that are involved with that aspect of the Red Bull brand. And so if you know, I mean, I know what it's like to be young and what it's like to be thirsty and want to get put on and da-da-da, but what really is important is that, like, look, you know, and this is coming back to you know, what is it that you're trying to accomplish in this game as a DJ or an artist and whatnot. just make sure that the people that you are aligning yourself with, and there's plenty of them out there, man. I mean, Serato is a fucking beautiful company, man. Everybody that I know with Serato have nothing but the best intentions in mind. And I mean, Serato is not really corporate in that sense.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, there's plenty of other bigger companies. I did a bunch of random shit with fucking Adidas and all kinds of companies over the years and whatnot. But as long as what it is that you're signing yourself up for, you're dealing with people that you know, just be smart, man. Be about your game. Be about your fucking knowledge. Make sure that you're you know, testing the waters before you actually dip your toes in. Just make sure that you're you know, that you're not signing yourself up for anything dumb. You know, even if you're young and hungry, trust me, man, you know, you're going to benefit. You're going to do so much better down the line if you just educate yourself on what it is that you're getting yourself involved with, you know?
Yeah.
Like, don't fucking, like, dude, come on, like, McDonald's and, like, you know, just, like, there's been so many companies over the years, man, that have been massively, like, just painfully opportunistic about how they align themselves with hip-hop and with DJing and the whole nine, and it's just like,
Talk about appropriation, yeah.
I mean, dude, seriously, like to the fucking like 10,000th degree, you know what I mean? And it's all like we used to do like cool cigarettes was like a thing way back in the day. They used to do fucking like battles, and they had tons of money to throw out at the scene. And there was a bunch of motherfuckers, dude, that were like really, you know, all about it. And I remember going to a couple of those shows, dude, and they're just out there, you know, just like dishing out fucking
free packs, huh?
Free packs, dude, and fucking, you know, discount little tickets for your corner store shit and all this stuff. And it's just like, dude, these cats are like, you know that none of this is actually legit, dude. It's full-fledged opportunity, dude. So
yeah. No, it's crazy because, I mean, basically I think what you're getting at too is pay scale wise, sometimes when you're just starting out or you're mid-level or you're working your way up, your pay increases as your name and your branding and your experience goes up and your skill level, and people know you for rocking parties and whatnot and what you do. That's okay. You might get paid less as a younger cat, but you can never undermine your artistic integrity. And I think that's what you're trying to get across, is that like maintain, even as a DJ, there's artism there. As much as people want to tell you, oh, you're just pushing one song from the next, it's like, no, there's an art form there. Unless you're really just phoning it in, which, you know, then like, what are you even doing? You know what I mean? You might as well just throw on Pandora or whatever. But
dude, you know, it takes a lot. It takes a fucking lot of work to get yourself to a place in this industry that is primarily fake as fuck. There's a lot of work that it takes to get yourself to a place where your stature and level of respect and what it is that you brought to the table actually means something, and at the same time you're able to live off of it. It takes a lot of fucking work. A lot. It only takes one instance for you to fuck all of that up.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of examples out there of cats that have fucked that up with one dumb fucking thing that they did or said that exposed exactly where they are and where their hearts are at with this culture and with this music. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to fucking speak on specifics or names or anything, dude. There's hundreds of examples out there of exactly that happening.
Well, you're only good as your last show. That's the old saying in the biz.
You're only as good as your last fucking genuine word of intent, man. You know,
right.
Yeah.
Which is part of it, or what you say at a show, or your actions at a show. You might have like played a good set, but then said something off color to someone, or been rude to the staff, or you know, the DJ that's opening up for you, kind of thing. You know, and that kind of thing. And I think we had a conversation with this a good friend of mine who's a creative director, you know, graphic designer, and he, you know, is not afraid, no qualms of like $100 an hour is my rate. and whatever the number amount is, whether it's higher or lower than that or whatever, but being comfortable with your rate as a freelancer, whether you're a DJ, artist, whatever, because it's all the time that you're putting in that moment, but all the time it took leading up to that moment to get you where you are, getting the set ready, all the skills you learned over the past to get you to that gig, all the time that you're not working, the lulls between events, right? You got to be able to have finances for that. So incorporating all that in your rate is important. And again, it goes back to just knowing your worth and being not afraid to, be proud of that and not undermining yourself when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, really just kind of educating yourself about all aspects of what that really means, Like you can see somebody say or post something about like, hey, what's the rate that I should be going for and blah, blah, blah. Dude, so much of that is just based entirely on experience. And a lot of it is very much based on individual circumstances and individual things that get presented to you as well, Like if somebody, dude, if you're really passionate about a certain cause or about a certain message that's being conveyed, like don't be a fucking asshole about your involvement with that situation. If you really believe in it, like put your heart in the right place when it comes to these things, like it's really, I don't know. It's the nuances are the nuances can be, they vary quite a bit. They definitely vary quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, with experience, you learn what each of those nuances actually mean and how they can, benefit you because that's, certainly a part of the whole situation, but ultimately kind of benefit the the culture and the scene that you're taking part in as a whole. We're all in this together, dude. We're all in this together, man.
Yeah.
So much of the Bay, dude, historically has we
crabs in a bucket, kind of, right? Like,
I mean, we've just done a pretty amazing job over the years as far as sustaining our little scene around here by being to one another.
Yes.
Being like. Just making sure, certain aspects of the culture are preserved and that we don't, have fucking dickhead, whatever, man, aspects to our personality and whatnot. We only build and work together and make it happen and get stronger when we care, like genuinely care, If you're out for self, if you're out for dolo, if you're out on some bullshit, you're just unfortunately not going to last long, man. You're going to burn a lot of bridges, and you're going to lose a lot of friends, and your name is going to get lost in this game, dude.
Yeah,
but anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, tell about preserving the culture and stuff. Tell me about being able to work with one of your, and this goes back to doing the De La Soul mix, but bringing Prince Paul in on the 45 sessions and working together with him and being able to interview him and just working with him. I mean, that must have been just like a dream come true, right?
Oh yeah, without a doubt, absolutely. I mean, there isn't another producer in the game that's more of a hero to me as far as what it is that I do than Paul himself. The guy is his. I don't know, man. Of all the dudes that I've met in the game, I've met a lot of cats, dude. And Paul is like, his heart is 199% in the right place, as far as what like he's super humble, he's super kind, and everything that he's gone through, man. He's gone through a lot of shit, dude. Like, as far as being somebody. His introduction to the game was, I think, 86.
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah, when Stetson first
dropped. Sonic, right?
Yes, I think it was 86 was the first album.
Yeah.
That they dropped, and Paul was a big part of that. He was like 16 years old at the time. He's been around for so fucking long at this stage. It's and crazy, he's still just, I'm sure he's pretty burnt by a lot of things that he's gone through, but at the end of the day, man, you know, he's just a fucking really, really good human being, man. Really good human being, and crazy, crazy talented on top of it all. And you know, man, honestly, dude, like I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for the people that have influenced me in this game,
For sure.
And the ones that I've had really, really just nothing but positive interactions with over the years are the ones that have stuck with me and resonated with me more than anything, and that means everything at this stage. It doesn't, you know, all of these other little fickle things and all like bullshit interactions and beefs and blah blah blah, like none of that means anything at this stage, dude. Like the positive interactions that I've had over the years are everything at this point. You know, those are the things that mean the most, that are the most important. And my friendship with Paul at this stage, I mean, I don't talk to him all the time, but you know, we've had plenty of interactions over the years, and I've booked him for a bunch of shows, and we've done a bunch of other random gigs outside of that, and have chopped it up and exchanged gifts and all kinds of just really, really meaningful things, man, you know. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Paul is the shit, man. That guy is the fucking greatest of all time, in my opinion, man. For real talk, dude.
Well, and now having, you know, some years under your belt, you know, you're certainly not a veteran like him, but, you know, having been in 20, 25, 26 years, you can now pay it forward yourself. And it seems like you have that, not only, you know, are you fully committed to the music, but you're also want to pay it forward and teach and spread the love. And, you know, I think what you alluded to too is like, you know, you get to a certain point as far as like all the beef and all that petty shit, like you just come to a point where you just don't have the time or energy for dealing with that. And it's only really about, you know, putting your time and energy into things that will progress you forward and expand your mind, expand your resources, expand your well-being, you know, your skill set, your experience, that kind of thing. And, you know, it's just a great thing to see. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because it's a good insight into like how if you truly follow your passion and, like you said, really love what you do and really are honest with yourself and the craft, whether it be music or whatever it is, you know, you can be successful. You know, like you said, it's not going to happen overnight. You got to have the patience, you got to have the commitment, and you got to have the respect for those that came before you and those that put together the art form. But you know, I couldn't think of a better example of someone who really puts their best foot forward and achieves that in everything that you're talking about. So
well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, you said it, you know, you summed it up about as eloquently as possible. You know, it's really no, real talk, man. I mean, it's just, dude, it's about, you know, I hate sounding redundant, especially in interviews, but we've been talking for over 2 hours at the stage. But
yeah.
But you know, the fact of the matter is that, you know, people that know, man, cats that actually really, really give a shit about a certain aspect of an art form, like you can tell. You really can tell. I think ultimately you can really sift through, you know, a lot of that bullshit, man. I think you can really tell when somebody genuinely gives a fuck about something, you know. And I mean, I'm not unrealistic. Like, there's been plenty of times over the years, man, I got bills to pay. I'm a fucking grown up, you know. I'm not like my track record isn't 100% spotless. Like, let's not fake the funk here. I don't have too many public things on record that I could be called out on, but like, you know, I took a paycheck for some questionable shit. Nobody knows about it, but you know, at the end of the day, like what it is that I'm doing my best to convey here, man, as far as culture and art goes is just, you know, yeah, I don't know. I'm just sounding really redundant at this stage.
No, it's all good, Brent. It's all good. Well, you know, like you said, we have been talking for a minute, so I think you know what we're getting at is stay true to it. be honest with yourself about, the time you have to commit to something, whatever art form it is, but also, all that good stuff of what you're saying. And there are people out there that are listening that are just starting out or in that middle stage that really want to know and hear from veterans like yourself. So, don't think that you're beating a dead horse, because some people really, it's that self-help thing of like, really need to hear it from other people about like, sometimes, it's like you might have it in your head, you might know it, but to hear it from other people and to hear it out loud in sort of a discussion like this is a good format. So
yeah,
we appreciate your insight for sure.
Yeah, if you're unsure, I think that could probably be my final point for the day for this interview, is if you're unsure about what your intentions are, signing yourself up for anything from just anything artistically, because that's what we're focusing on here today, right? And I could dive in, I could pertain this to so many different aspects of society and what it is you choose to spend your time on and put your efforts and everything into. But from a music and artistic standpoint is always ask yourself what your intentions are. Just always make that a part of the internal conversation that you're having before you sign yourself up for anything, before you spend money on anything, before you start speaking on anything, before you start spreading art, culture, music, anything. Always ask yourself, why is it that you are doing this? And are your intentions pure, and are they positive? And if they're not, then you should question that shit and go back groceries at Trader Joe's or whatever the fuck is it, the other alternative. And not to downplay bagging groceries at Trader Joe's, because that was actually a job that I had for about a year, just outside of I think that the first job that I had after I graduated from college was I bagged groceries at the Trader Joe's in Emeryville for 10 months.
Nice. Love it.
So I can speak on that. But anyway, yeah, that's what it is, man. So much of what we talked about today, man, it really just comes back to that, dude. So,
yeah.
I intentionally just try to revert back to that point, but I think, dude, if there is ever anything to really focus on, concentrate on, and be passionate about in times of COVID when we're just locked down, is think about who you are. Think about who you are as a person, as a lover of art, and what it is that you're trying to do. And as far as being socially responsible and everything, man, like, we have all the time in the fucking world right now, man. Yeah. Really, really question yourself and put your intentions in the right place, Yeah,
absolutely, man. And that's some great action plan, as they say in the sort of like corporate business world. It's like, what's the action plan you're going to leave your audience with or whatever? And call to action is what I'm thinking of, right? That's the call to action. And like, amid all the crazy pandemic health, people are dying. You can't focus on that. You got to focus on what you said, is what you can do to stay healthy and stay productive and stay creative. So I think that's a great way to wrap it up. And I really want to thank you, DJ Platurn, for being on the Sam Jack podcast. We learned a lot. We had some fun. We had some laughs. There was some profanity involved, but hey, that's what it's all about. We're some great guys.
Inevitable.
So we hope to have you on again, because there's obviously more conversations to be had and updates and more projects that we want to talk about that you're doing in the future. So please stay in touch. And again, thank you for being on the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, will do, man, for sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me ramble. I had a couple of glasses of wine in me. We had a wine lunch today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cheers to that. But
COVID day drinking, baby. You set your own hours.
Exactly. It's still summertime, man. You got to celebrate it however you can.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks. Much love to you and yours, and to everybody out there paying attention and all that, man. Much love to you guys. Please stay safe, and Black Lives Matter, man. Dude, at the end of the fucking day, if there's anything that's more important than staying safe because of COVID, man, this is what needs to be fucking dealt with right now, dude. So fuck All Lives Matter, fuck Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. That's it. That's all I got.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Platurn. Good to see you again. Thanks for the combo. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bro. Peace, man.
Peace. Thank you so much for watching the Sam Jack podcast. I, of course, am your host, Sam Jack. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, Viral Media Network. Follow us on Instagram, viralmedia.network. You can follow us on Twitter, media_viral. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. Viral Media Network 415 is the channel. The playlist is the Sam Jack podcast. We're also on audio podcasts, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, and lots more wherever you podcast. Just look for the Sam Jack podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.